Hey everyone, it's Taylor with the Daily Again. Let's get into it. So in this episode, what I want to talk about is executive orders, and not specific executive orders that Joe Biden has already passed or signed. I want to talk about executive orders in a more broad sense, and what they are, what they mean, how they're used, that kind of thing. And really, how they get their power is from the Constitution of the United States. And if you haven't, go and read the Constitution. I know a lot of people like to throw around, that's unconstitutional. Well, read the Constitution and then you can start saying that. So, in the Constitution of the United States, there is an Article 2. Article 2, Section 1 and Article 2, Section 3 are what give the president the power to make executive orders. And what an executive order is, essentially it's an interpretation of the laws that have been passed by Congress and them implementing and kind of enforcing them, not really, but making sure that they are implemented well. There's two very specific clauses, and in not so many words does the Constitution say the president can use executive orders. It says that the president has the executive authority and that the president shall take care in making sure that the laws are faithfully executed. I know it's extremely vague and not 100% specific, but essentially what that does is it allows the president to come out and say, this is how this law is going to be applied to everyone, whatever it is. They get to say how each law gets interpreted a little bit and then passed on to the public and how we have to follow the rules. Now, just because the president says something and says this is the way the law is, does not necessarily mean that that is how it forever will be, or that is how it's going to be applied. They basically suggest this is how we're going to implement a law. And then what happens is either the Congress or the judicial branch can either interpret the law different through court cases, that's the judicial branch. So basically someone gets sued and they look at the laws and they say, well, this is how it really applies. And they can overturn an executive order or make it be interpreted a little bit different to make the law a little bit different, or Congress can pass a brand new law that says, nope, that's not how it really is, this is how it really is. Now, granted, the president can veto that thing that Congress passes, but the Congress can then change their law again, and you see how the process works. So the president says, this is how the law is, and this is the way it's going to be applied. The judicial branch, through court cases, can say, nope, this is how it really is. And the legislative branch can say, no, this is the rule that we want instead of that one. This is how we're going to override you. So that's our whole checks and balances system in a little nutshell for you. It's probably best explained through an example, and we'll use a recent executive order that really what brought this to my mind, and that is Executive Order 13988. And it was one recently signed by President Biden. And it has to do with non-discrimination against gender, sexuality, transgender, all of that stuff, no matter what, in any circumstance, in any form, and that even means professional athletes or any athletics, anything like that. Now, that being said, any organization can deny somebody entrance to their, whatever you want to call it, their organization. Someone can say, nope, a transgender male cannot fight a female in the octagon. That's just, we're not going to allow it. We're not going to allow you to sign up. Now, according to the law, or it could be interpreted that that is against the law. This is according to Executive Order 13988. This is against the law. It would then go to a court, and the court would interpret how this law can be applied, and they can either rule, yes, it is against the law, or no, you are perfectly within your rights for whatever reason to deny these people access to that. And that is the precedent that would be set going forward. Now, I'm not going to say which one's necessarily right or wrong, but that is essentially what we're talking about here. And that is, in essence, how executive orders work. In my eyes, executive orders are kind of portrayed as this decree from on high. The president is just making up things as he wants to, saying executive order this, executive order that, and this is just the way the rules are. And that's a little bit right, but I would say it's mostly wrong. And the reason I would say that is because they have to have some kind of foundation in some law. The president can't just make up laws. He has to go and reference something and say, this is how this law is going to be carried out. Also, that's not necessarily binding. You can go against that executive order because it is an interpretation of the law. You can interpret it differently. Now, you might get sued and you might lose a bunch of money, or you might go to prison because you got sued for something, but at least you stood up for what you believed in, I guess. But that's what I'm trying to say, is that yes, they do have power and need to be followed, but also they don't have power and you don't necessarily have to follow them. They're just kind of this gray, nebulous interpretation of laws, not necessarily laws themselves. I know this video is kind of rambly, but this is something that I struggled with for a really long time, and understanding executive orders and how they get their power and what they really mean. And in essence, they're not really powerful at all, legally speaking. They have no more power than an opinion about laws that I have, or you have, or any random lawyer has, until they're actually adjudicated and there's some kind of precedent set against that executive order or against the law the executive order references. Then they really don't mean anything. Now, from a leadership perspective, they mean a whole bunch. This is the Biden administration setting up and saying, we are not going to discriminate against any gender, any sexuality, anything in anything that we do. And from a leadership standpoint, that is a very powerful message that you can send with executive orders. Much like the Emancipation Proclamation, it was an executive order. Abraham Lincoln stood up and said, we will tolerate slavery no more. And it really didn't have any legal weight behind it until the Civil War was over and we actually made slavery illegal and all that. But it really didn't have any weight except for leading the country in a better way. With that, guys, I'm going to leave you. I say thank you very much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Please subscribe. It means so much to me, every single subscriber that I get. Just hit the subscribe button. It should be somewhere in this corner of your screen. Have a good one, guys.